I got this little wooden coffin at Michael's, and I just knew I had to make a vampire hunter's kit with it. The first thing I did was paint the coffin in a watered down brown acrylic paint, which I also used to color the cross that I'm going to be adding onto it. And then I did a red dry brush over the whole thing. And the red does look a little bright here, but after I go over it with a black wash later, it really does give it this very aged wood look because of the different tones of paint that I used. I got this wooden cross from Hobby Lobby, and it's a little bit denser than the wood of the coffin, so it took a couple of coats to get it the correct color. To make these stakes, I used toothpicks that I coated in that same watered down brown, and then I took twine and Mod Podge and wrapped it around the tops, securing it with the glue to make it look like a handle. I'm adding black wash to these strips of paper to give either like a aged leather look or a cloth look for these holders. And then I use these beads. I don't know what they're from or what they're for. I think they're originally for diamond painting kits. I use them to mimic the effects of nails or fastenings. This piece of cloth is just a random dice bag that I've cut up, and I'm using a bead to simulate a bag of salt. I thought that would be a little bit more interesting than creating a jar of salt since I already planned to put jars in this miniature. And it might be kind of hard to make this out, but I'm taking two different beads, a glass bead and a plastic bead, and I'm making miniature jars. I end up not using both of them, but I really like how they turned out. And I have a lot of these medium white beads, so I'm painting this one black with a Sharpie paint marker to make a lid for this potion bottle. So since this is a vampire hunting kit, it has to have holy water. But I didn't want to add actual water into this miniature only because sometimes if you're not careful with how you seal your bottles, the water can evaporate. So in order to mimic the same thing as a bottle of holy water, I used dish soap so that it still looks like liquid in the bottle. I used a paper clip to make a holder for this teardrop shaped potion bottle that I have that already had red liquid in it. And you can kind of see I tried doing this with wood pieces, but they really didn't turn out right. The paper clip ended up working very well, and I painted it with the black Sharpie, but a lot of that rubbed off, so I went back over it with my silver paint marker. I'm using hot glue on some cut up chopsticks and a piece of popsicle stick to make little candles. They look a little sloppy, but that kind of added to the melted candle effect. And then I just painted them white and added little wicks on them using wire and super glue. I don't know if this was the best or worst decision I made for this miniature, but I attempted to make garlic originally using polymer clay, and I really did not like the way that it turned out. So I found these odd shaped beads that I had, and I painted them white, added a little bit of cut up twine to the bottom of them, and they somewhat looked like little garlics. I then decided to go ahead and put them in a potion bottle so that they wouldn't be as obvious, and I painted the potion bottle with a coat of Mod Podge so that it gave it a cloudier effect. Overall, I think I like it. I really wish I had had the patience to try making them with polymer clay. To make this miniature Bible, I used cardstock and foam board that I originally got at the Dollar Tree. And then I took black tissue paper that I crumpled up to make it look very wrinkly, and I applied that onto the cardstock using Mod Podge. I wanted it to look like a black leather Bible, and I think it turned out very well. In my last miniature, I used one of these skulls, and I wanted to try something different, so I painted it using white acrylic paint. I did have to put a layer of Mod Podge down first just because the paint was having a harder time sticking. I dry brushed it with some brown, and then I wanted to give the effect that it was a freshly dug up skull. And this is my stash of dried tea that I use to act as dirt. All I do is, after I'm done with the tea bag, I dry it out and make sure that it's completely dry before I use it. And I had the idea to make a age stack of papers, so I'm cutting up computer paper and then I'm going to layer it with Mod Podge. I used a lot, making sure to get in between some of the pieces just to make sure it all holds together. And then I tried to add what looks like writing, and that is completely undone when I end up aging this stack with a brown wash. Overall, I still like the way that it turned out, but I acknowledge while I'm making this voiceover that I really should have aged the paper before I ended up making the stack. I give everything either a dry brush of brown or a brown wash to make all of the items inside of the coffin look aged. So the outside of the box is getting a black wash, which I really think helped with the aged effect that I was going for. I see a lot of craft videos where they tell you to add some type of darker wash to your finished miniatures, and I think this just really made it come together. I also spray painted the original hardware black because it was a silver color and it kind of clashed, so I really like the way that the matte black looks with this. And now it's time for my favorite part, which is assembling everything. I love being able to glue everything down finally after I've made all of the random pieces. I'm using Aleene's tacky glue just because that's what I had on hand at the time. And this glue dries clear. I used a little too much of it in some places, but it's honestly not very noticeable, and that's why it's one of my favorites to use so far. And I am so happy with how this ended up turning out. It is exactly what I was envisioning, and that's what I love about making these miniatures is that it takes a lot of time, but the results to me are really worth it. I hope you liked this video, and if you enjoyed this one, check out my other video where I make a miniature potion cabinet. It's another spooky, witchy Halloween themed build, and it also lights up. So thank you again, and like and subscribe for more.